All right. Good evening and welcome to the Thursday, October 5th, 2023 regular meeting of the school committee. We are live here at HCAM and we are being recorded. I would invite those who are here in the studio to rise for the Pledge of Allegiance.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
All right. And first up on our agenda is public comments. I don't know if there's anybody here that would like to make a public comment. Okay. All right. Then that moves us into recognitions and introductions. And if there were any anybody has any recognitions or introductions they'd like to share? Okay, we're moving very quickly tonight. All right, so that moves us into Student Council. Jack, we are so happy to have you here again.
Thank you. Hello, everyone. The high school has continued its wonderful start to the school year. Students are now 1 month into their new schedules, and everyone has settled in pretty nicely. Some new experiences have been superlatives and national merit scholarships for our senior students. The superlatives involve the entire class voting on awards. Some examples of awards are Best Laugh, Best Smile, Most Likely to Become President, and Most Likely to Become Famous. So all generally good stuff. Our senior class has also had a very strong showing with the national merit scholarships. 18 students were commended for their scores on the PSAT, and 5 students moved on to the semifinals of the National Merit Scholarship from our class. As I mentioned previously, the Student Council and class administrators have made tremendous strides in planning of homecoming. Homecoming is scheduled to take place on October 14th at 7 p.m. It is available to juniors and seniors. The theme will be Starry Night, although I don't exactly know what that means, but we'll go with that. Hopkinton Athletics have also continued their amazing start to the fall season. Both boys and girls soccer participated in their youth nights. This involved a halftime game between the younger age groups of soccer players, as well as the younger players accompanying the starters from each team at the beginning of the game. The football team is currently playing their 4th game of the season as they take on Medfield at home. It is a Thursday night game because of the shortage of officials in the area. Other than these, some upcoming events are the Holistic Student Assessment and the School Council. The Holistic Student Assessment will take place on Tuesday during Flex Block in the high school. The HSA provides social emotional assessment tools that support our school's focus on planning, implementing, and evaluating preventative strategies to promote social and emotional mental health. The School Council will meet on October 17th. It is made up of students, parents, teachers, and administrators who their main goal is to prepare the school plan for next year. Lastly, on October 20th, the senior class will participate in Senior Transition Day. This day allows students to finish any requirements that they may have within the Common Application. They will be provided with guidance on how to answer certain supplemental questions, as well as they will begin to brainstorm ideas for their senior capstone experience, which begins in May. Thank you.
That's a lot.
Yeah.
Great.
Yeah.
Anybody have any questions or comments for Jack?
Thank you. Great update.
I think we should ask him how the soccer team did tonight.
We won our game just before this 5-0, so pretty good. Yeah.
Congratulations.
It was Bellingham, though. Nothing crazy.
Are you panning?
All right, well done.
Thank you.
All right, so that moves us into the superintendent's report.
Thank you. So this is the superintendent's report for October 5th, 2023. In tonight's presentation, you will see our niche rankings, which are very exciting, an Elmwood project, very quick update. I've included some DESE attendance target data, just because I was looking through our accountability and came across these and was very pleased with what I've seen. An all call for people to join the Bullying Prevention and Intervention Revision Group. I will also show you the names of the National Merit Scholars, just a very quick slide on restorative justice training for the administrators, and another very quick slide on parking at the high school. So to start with the great news, our niche ratings, I don't know that we've ever been number one in all three categories before, but that just happened for the 2024 ratings. They came out just last week. So Hopkinton was ranked number one in best places to teach in Massachusetts. Our teachers were also considered the best teachers in Massachusetts, so we were ranked there first as well, and congratulations to them. They all worked so hard. And overall, we were the best school district in Massachusetts, so a lot of good news right there. With the Elmwood project, a couple of things have happened since we last met on the 27th of September, last Wednesday. We were before the Zoning Board of Appeals, and under the Dover Amendment, our three-story height of the building was considered to be acceptable. So they did take a vote on that night, so we're sort of cleared with the Zoning Board of Appeals. And then on Tuesday, October 3rd, the Select Board voted to establish a special town meeting to let the town vote on the Elmwood project on November 13th, and then the special election date is November 28th. So we're very excited to have that on the books as well. Asking people to please consider participating in the biennial review of the district's bullying prevention and intervention plan. By law, we have to review that every 2 years. We did it a couple of years ago, I think. The last time we presented to you a new plan was May of 2022, so hopefully this will be ready by May of 2024. I feel like the last time we did it was a really heavy lift. We sort of dissected the plan word by word. And last time we had Mrs. DeBow and Mr. Pominville as our administrators, and the two of them have agreed to bring their institutional knowledge and come back to the committee. So that's exciting.
When is it?
We will start as soon as we have everyone in place. I think that will be in November.
And we have Holly on that.
Yes, yes. So these are the attendance targets, and Mr. LeBrod will tell you that there are times when I'm scrolling through our accountability and our assessments, and when I got to this, I thought, oh my gosh, that's really great news. So this is the chronic absenteeism data for non-high school, and Hopkinton's an unusual place in that we have people who join our school community from all over the world. And so they are leaving families in places halfway around the globe. And so they do have that need to travel home and visit with their families. And it's very different, I think, if you are a K-8 family than if you're a 9 to 12 family, because loss of credit starts to happen at the high school age. So that presents another whole issue. And then, of course, the state does not allow for remote instruction. So there are lots of factors that weigh in. And I think we work very hard to impress upon families the need to be in school, but also to say we understand that you need to travel and you need to see your families. I mean, that's the way your life is. So we've been working very closely, we think, to kind of bring those, the chronic absenteeism rates down. And what DESE does is they set targets for us. And if you just look over in the last column, you can see that we have either exceeded or met all of the targets that they have set for us. So that's been, I think that the work we're doing is sensitive to families and also important to education. And then at the high school level, right here, we have exceeded all of our targets. So that feels really nice, going from 22 to 23. It might also be hard to know if the sort of return to school last year because people had been out for COVID reasons, or people just felt like they had to get their kids back in school for real. But we're just hoping that this is a trend that will stay in place.
Dr. Kavanaugh, can you just define chronic absenteeism? Like what would constitute chronic absenteeism?
So I think that at the high school level, the state allows you to miss sort of 10% of the time. So if there are 180 days, you can miss like 18, for example. It's trickier at the high school because you can really only miss 10% of a class. So if you come in tardy one day and miss English but not math, you stand to lose credit in English faster than you lose credit in math, so to speak. But
Thank you.
My recollection, and it sounds like this is what you're saying, is that the targets that DESE is setting are actually the ones that we have internally in terms of the 5 days for the warning and then the 7 days for the things to go home is more stringent than what the state is considering chronic absenteeism. Even though I know that the law figures into our policy
yes,
itself.
what the law tells us is that we have to once you're absent those 5 days, we have to send that letter home. And so when a family is traveling, we do say, you're going to get a very ugly letter from us. We know you're gone, you know you're gone, you know that the letter is coming, but we have to send it legally, so.
I was wondering if our change in the calendar to include some holidays that other
that
students
could
may
be.
have left to celebrate things that are now acknowledged holidays had any impact, but if it's chronic, probably not.
Oh, chronic plus, like if you have an illness,
Yeah.
plus your couple of your holidays.
Yeah, it adds up, yeah.
Yeah, that's the thing, I think it becomes, when you look at it cumulatively,
Yeah.
it changes. Yeah. All right. So here are our National Merit Scholars. As Jack said, we have 13 commended students and 5 semifinalists. We have Shrava Aravapali, Eva Bennett, Riley Blair, Edward Campbell, Dhruva Embar, Derek Hatherley, Stephanie Johnson, Anya Krishnamoni, Adita Macharaju, Sophia Matsukis, Abigail McFarland, Anakath Mikalanini, Yasa Mohammed, Ane Pachori, Zachary Peace, Emily Scaff, Shralakshmi Venkatasan, Celia Zhang, and semifinalists Zachary Krimgold, Amanda Shee, Abigail Baskin, Bableen Gill, and Prisha Shrivastava. So congratulations to all of those students. It's quite an achievement. And then on Tuesday, September 26th, during our admin council meeting, we brought in someone from Suffolk they provide us with all of our restorative justice training. And we had a really nice morning, I think, just the 20-plus people in the admin council working on restorative justice. And we actually went through a couple of circles together. So it was really nice.
What is that photo of?
Oh, that's very interesting that you say that. So when she comes to do a circle, she actually does place that in the circle, and then in the circle there are also things that you pass around, and there's sort of power in the piece that you're passing because you know that your voice is the sole voice at the time that you're holding that object. And then around there were paper plates that she had given us all and asked us to talk about why we do the work we do. What are the most important things that from your world and your life, your lived experience, you bring to the work. So, yeah, it was nice. All right, now,
Whoa, that doesn't look good.
that does not look good. So what you're seeing up there is an authentic parking ticket that I saw on a car today walking from my office over to the middle school. So we are buckling down on parking, and we are simply because there's not a lot of space. And right now we're going through 2 projects where we're doing solar in the bus parking lot, and we're doing solar canopies over in the middle school parking lot. And so we just want to make sure that if kids have in fact purchased their parking pass, that they have put that parking pass in the right place on the car, and that if it says you're parking in H lot or J lot or K lot or water tower lot or wherever it says you're parking, that you're actually parking in that space. And if you don't have a parking sticker, you should invest in one. And the last thing we want to say is if there is a family that needs financial assistance with any aspect of transportation, they should call our transportation department. But we are going to be seeing more of these terrible yellow parking tickets, I think, unless we can get our parking situation straightened out. I don't know if our our student council rep, a school committee rep from the high school has heard any jibber jabber about this.
I luckily have senior lot as my sticker, so I don't have much to complain about myself, but I have noticed it as a problem sometimes. If you come in, like a first period study, and you'll come in with a senior lot sticker, yet the lot will be filled up. So then it sort of is a domino effect. It forces you to park somewhere else, and maybe you'll be kicking kids out of those lots because they're gone. So
Yes.
it's an interesting problem.
And is it still, it's just seniors that have parking stickers this year, is that correct?
I believe juniors can have them as well, except they're limited to H lot and J lot and K lot, whereas seniors can be senior lot, tennis lot, and water towers.
So, but I believe the junior parking stickers are on a pause right now.
Okay,
A lot of
that's-
juniors don't have their license starting right away. They typically get it during the year and then apply for a parking pass, and that is what's on hold.
Related to the solar
Until this
projects?
construction project is complete. Yep.
Can I just ask, because of the solar construction, are there spaces that are not accessible? Like, has it constrained the parking spaces?
Not yet.
Not yet.
Okay.
Yeah.
I noticed, though, when I've had to do middle school pickup in the afternoon, that there is a large number of spots that used to be occupied that are not.
Senior part.
Students are not
The number
being
of
allowed
seniors
to
to
park
that
in the
are-
water tower lot
Okay.
right
Do you
now.
have senior lot?
Yeah.
Yes, it's the.
It is hard to
that
break the
students who
habit,
don't
so if
have-
you've given someone that space and then we have to
Stickers
take it
will-
away when the construction
And so
starts.
you have
it makes
two
it
other choices.
Challenging. And the
As
construction
well
is
as-
running a little
You can
bit
park
behind
it.
schedule.
Yeah, as well as,
But for evening
The bus
events,
loop.
currently,
and technically. you
adults who
could
are
go to
attending
staff
evening
lot,
events
but-
can park in any of the spas.
Absolutely.
Really running a risk. Yeah.
All right, that's it. So we're bringing the joy, we're bringing the humor, we've got a lot of things tonight.
Questions, comments?
Do you ever tow vehicles that are in the wrong place?
No, we just ticket them.
Do you tow somebody who offends more than once or more than twice?
I don't think we've ever towed anyone.
No.
No.
I don't remember tickets in previous years. Is that a
Oh,
new?
there have been tickets before.
I
Heard.
I've been aware of the problem that Jack referenced of students parking in the wrong lot and then people bumping down in a way which tells me that there are people parking in better lots than what they're,
From my experience, I think
Yeah.
it's sort of escalated this year specifically, but
okay.
it's always been sort of a problem.
If a student tells you they were bumped from their assigned lot and had to park somewhere else, would that prevent them from getting a ticket? Or is it, what? You still get a ticket?
I believe the school resource officer,
Yeah.
Officer Santoro, is always in his office. So
Yeah.
if that happens to you and you have to say park tennis lot and you have a senior lot sticker, then you can walk down to his office
Yeah,
and
well, that's good.
alert him. Yeah.
If you're doing your best.
What does the ticket cost the individual?
Oh, I don't know. I probably should have turned it over to see what I didn't want to.
And do you know?
That wouldn't look out at all.
I think it's around the $30 range.
Oh, pretty
But,
pricey.
Yeah.
Pretty pricey. Be interesting to get statistics on how much illegal parking is done.
Yeah, I think when there are years that we're not doing construction or, you know,
Yeah.
sometimes you can let things slide a little bit. But
Yeah.
because of the construction projects this year, we want to make sure we're establishing good habits. Great. All right, thank you.
Okay, that moves us into the school committee chair report, and want to start by saying payroll warrant S24006 has been approved. Warrants 24-012S and 24-013S have been approved. All the warrants should be included in your folder. Just want to give an update on the budget message, which I know we had, originally we were going to get on September 19th, part of the budget calendar. We voted to have that be on October 3rd. And just for folks at home that may not know the process, under the town charter, the budget calendar has to be approved by the Appropriations Committee, the School Committee, and the Select Board together. The Select Board was unable to have the budget message on October 3rd, as people noticed, I'm sure. And so it's scheduled to be at our joint meeting on October 10th. I had just alerted the Select Board that may put us in a little bit of a bind in terms of our budget timeline, because it's 3 weeks later than what we had initially anticipated. There are a lot of meetings that go on behind the scenes before the budgets start coming to us. So I think it would be an opportunity for us to look at what the budget calendar is going forward, because obviously we're a little bit off what we had voted and discussed, and to see if we may perhaps need an additional week or so on the other end of this to allow for everything to unfold the most productive way, so that we're able to deliver a budget that is both fiscally responsible and sensitive to our taxpayers, but also advocating for the needs of our students and our schools. So that's just the update on that. We'll find out more, I think, on Tuesday when we're with the Select Board. So that's that. And then the Elmwood project, at the last meeting, I had given an update that they're having, the ESBC2 is putting out kind of an information campaign, and I had sort of some tentative things that in terms of smaller groups they want to work with. I'm waiting from the chair, John Graziano, to get back to me with kind of the final list of when these meetings are going to be so that we can contribute and have people there available to talk about the school committee-wide piece of it, which the ESBC2 wouldn't have as much information on things like what our overall capital campaign and capital budget and things like that. So more to come on that, probably by email, because I'm expecting that by the end of the week. That is all I have for that. Does anybody have any liaison reports?
I want to piggyback off
Oh, yes,
you
go
with
right ahead.
Sustainable Green, because I think that's the first E ESBC2 date, maybe is next Wednesday, October 11th, is when the Sustainable Green Committee is having the Hopkinton Climate Action Plan at the senior centers from 6 to 9 p.m. And so E ESBC2 has a table.
Yep.
And we had said at the last meeting that we'd be okay with sharing that so that we were present to answer those broader school questions. So I guess I'd be curious to know who can make it next Wednesday, 6 to 9. I can, but I don't know if anyone else can. And then maybe we can talk at some point about what we want to display. They've offered us a trifold board.
Oh, great.
Yeah.
So the other issue is because of the holiday on Monday, if we have a quorum of people who are going to go on Wednesday, we would need to post it tomorrow. So that would, I am unable to make that, unfortunately, as
Okay.
much as I support the work that's
Yeah.
being done. Obviously, Adam's not here, but I don't know, Susan and Holly, if you know off the top of your head, if
6 to 9.
Wednesday evening on
Wednesday, the
October
11th.
11th.
Yep.
At the town hall,
At the senior center.
at the senior center. Oh, yeah, I could probably make it.
And what's the name of the event?
It's the Hopkins Climate Action Plan and how we get to net zero. It's a bit of a long title, but I think it's helping residents explore ways to get to net zero. And I believe one of the fun exhibits is an actual model house with all the different kinds of features of a sustainable home, whether it's recycle bins or rain catchers or solar or whatever. I think they have different elements that you can explore with your family, and all sorts of other booths and things, electric vehicles and.
And the new building has so many sustainable green components to it that would be a great opportunity to showcase that in an appropriate setting there.
Yes, that was my second thing from Sustainable Green. We got a thank you email from the chair, who noticed our agenda for tonight, and I know we're going to talk about the Hopkins School Edition, and he just wanted to say, I'm thrilled to see the additions, HVAC goals, and the future roadmap on full electrification of the system. Many thanks to the school department and committee for aligning with the goals of the net zero resolution. Just passing that along.
So I think what I'll do is I will ask Georgette to prepare a posting for that so that we are able to do it and we can cancel the posting if we're not able to have a quorum there. Just-
I can go.
Okay,
yay.
so that's
So
right
that
there,
makes the
3
quorum,
people.
right?
Yep,
Yep.
great, all right, thank you.
Yep, that's it.
Okay. Anything for you, Holly?
I'll be attending my first youth commission meeting on Tuesday.
Great. Okay. That's great. Then that brings us into the Hopkins Addition Project Report. And that, is that Mrs. Rothermaker? It doesn't,
No.
Okay.
That would be
Okay,
Our friends
gotcha.
from Vertex and Perkins Eastman.
fabulous.
I'll go next to Jack.
You did a great job.
Thank you.
This is Dawn. Jane.
That's right. That's it. She wants to come.
What it really is.
She wasn't going to say that.
We'll take 15 here with this next turn.
All right, so before you get started, I have a question. Do we need to link anyone in?
Grayson Woods is on Zoom,
Perfect, okay. I
so
just
he
wanted to
does
make
have a
sure he's
speaking
there.
role. Grayson, can you hear us?
Yeah, I can hear you loud and clear.
Not hard for us to hear you. I don't know if we can boost that or not.
You turn the volume up.
Yeah, the TV volume.
So there,
Yeah,
there it is on
I
the
don't-
screen, so she can just
I
click.
don't know if the TV volume itself goes up or if that's controlled
I
from the
hope I
back.
have your right
Yeah,
presentation,
that was one that was this afternoon, or today at some point.
Yes.
I think.
We just juggled a few of the slides, so
Okay.
just in different
I
order.
hope I've got it right.
So Grayson, can you hear us now?
Yeah, I can hear you well. Can you hear me?
Getting
Yeah.
there.
Yeah, just pronunciate when you talk. We'll be all right.
Smidge louder.
So,
All right.
there you go. Jeff D'Amico, for those following at home, owner's project manager from the Vertex companies. I'm joined by Dan Cawley, who's the architectural project manager for Perkins, and Don Guarello.
Goriello. That's fine.
Who's the designer for Perkins, and then Grayson Woods is our mechanical engineer, is joining us remotely. So tonight's agenda, if you want to go to the next slide, what I want to talk about is just, we'll hit on the timeline. I want to kind of ground the committee before we launch into the overall design process. And then I'm going to turn it over to Dawn and her team to walk you through the site plan, floor plans, exterior and mechanical systems. And then you'll come back to me. We'll talk a little bit about next steps with the construction manager process and hiring and establishing the selection committee so we can then go move forward with that process. But where we are with the overall timeline on the next slide, this is the same schedule that we showed you at your last meeting last month, or earlier this month, I guess that was. And so we're in the middle of the design phase, and so we're at the very start of that, which is the schematic design. The design team got on board in July. A lot of meetings have occurred with the school administration, with the users, with town leadership in terms of the various permitting boards. We had meetings this week. We met with the building inspector this week, really to flush out the scope of the overall project. We have not done our first estimate yet, and so I want to set the tone that we're at the information gathering stage and documenting stage, so we're going to start our estimating cycle next week. So what you see tonight will be most of what goes into that package from a basis of design. We're still making tweaks and changes to that, even as recent as yesterday's meeting with the users, and that will ultimately influence the actual design package that goes out to the estimators. What you see tonight will exceed the original price budget that came out last year. And the reason for that is we're still gathering information, diagnosing the building, and determining where we start and stop the renovations. We know what we're doing for the addition portion, but the renovations, until we get it all out there, check the current prices, we can't dial in the overall cost of the project. There are also decisions along the way that are value-add decisions. Geothermal, or the mechanical presentation tonight will be one of those. And we'll talk about some of the things we want to do that make the building a little different than it was envisioned back last fall. And so last fall, we focused more on the containers, meaning the shortfall of the students and where we put them. We put assumptions and allowances for site work, assumptions and allowances for code triggers. And over the last 2 months, Dan and his team have really uncovered all that. And so we're going to price that up, and we'll report back to you at the beginning of November with where we landed with the overall cost. Any questions on that before I turn it over to the design team? I just wanted to frame that for you so you understand where we are overall. Okay, so with that, I'll turn it over to Dawn.
Sure. So again, Dawn Goriello with Perkins Eastman. Nice to meet all of you. Thank you. I was going to ask you to advance the slide. So what you're looking at, I just want to remind everyone, the existing Hopkins School, it's about 78,000 square feet. It was designed for 628 students. I think you're at 640-ish right now. Enrollment projections plan to be up over 800, about 802. And during the district-wide study, it was determined that would be the case whether it was 4.5 or 5.6. What you're looking at is a 5.6 model, assuming that 4 will go to the new Elmwood. Fingers crossed that moves forward. And what that will do is open up the middle school for 7-8 and allow for everyone to have the space that they need. So with that, we assumed about a 25,000 square foot addition. What that includes is a larger gym from 6,000 to 9,000, a larger cafeteria, more classrooms, approximately 5 plus some of the modulars that will come over from Elmwood, an additional art room, an additional music room. So there's quite a bit of new program when you go from 628 to 800 students. So just want to remind everyone, I think that was presented in a whole from our colleague Bob Bell back probably almost a year ago or 9 months ago with the district-wide study, but that's what we were designing to. So what we put forward, and this is just background, it's not necessarily what you're looking at, there were 2 options that we showed, either an addition, in both cases the addition is to the west, see where it says new versus renovation. The renovation's the existing building. The loop road comes around from the upper right down to the lower left, and that's the direction in which you drive. The addition would always be over the hardscape, the basketball court and the 4 square area, just west of the existing building. there were two different designs that were put forward that, and I'll show you a spoiler alert where we ended up. But there was a new cafeteria option with additional classrooms and a new gymnasium option with additional classrooms. We looked at both, and in the new gymnasium, it takes over the existing gym into a cafeteria, takes the existing caf, turns that into a very large two music rooms, the existing music room as well as a large band, orchestra, chorus. In the new cafeteria, we proposed a whole new kitchen, cafeteria over the hardscape with classrooms to the north, and renovated the gym, took over the existing caf for the additional multi-purpose space, which is about 3,000 square feet. So those were two different options that we looked at, we talked about for many weeks and discussed the pros and cons. Ultimately, we decided to go forward with the new gym option. What that does is it gut renovates, which basically means take it down to the structure, the existing kitchen, makes it larger to accommodate a better servery, and takes over that existing gym for the cafeteria. And it was determined by our team that that made a lot of sense. A lot of the services and like even the grease, all the systems that go into the kitchen, they're all there. So to move the kitchen would likely be a large expense. That also puts the gym adjacent to the fields and allows for easy access for recess and also outdoor physical education. So at the end of the day, that's where we landed. That's what you're looking at. And should I just describe it, or do you want me to walk up there? I feel like I should Vanna White it because it's a little bit easier. It's not helpful to those at home, but for you guys, which is who we're here for, what this does is proposes a much larger, if you know the existing parking area at the front and car drop. It's a little bit confusing. There's a couple different ways to enter into it. What this proposes is a cleaned up version of that. The cars come through and create a large queue and drop at the existing front entry. What that also does is allows for substantially larger visitor parking at the front entry, adjacent for both visitor and staff. So this would remain as the front entry to the school. Again, this is the renovation. This is the proposed new. What you're looking at here at the end might look familiar to this at the bottom. These are the two-story Elmwood modulars that at the end, when that project is built and they vacate that building, this would come over and live at this building. So this is new construction, this is relocated modular, and that's 4 classrooms, almost identical to the 4 that are here. So as you come around, you still have service. This is where the existing kitchen is. What we did was took over the existing stage and created new receiving and custodial there with a proposed loading dock here. So what that does is has custodial in this corner adjacent to the kitchen, and the kitchen services the new cafeteria, which is where the existing gym currently is. So there's, sorry.
Did you want me to switch?
Nope, sorry, I'll go back, I'll describe it, I'm just, I'm taking you around the building. So there's outdoor classrooms, this becomes the bus drop. So car drop, bus drop, we have a new entry at the addition that the buses would drop to the south of the building. They have their own pull-off, and then there's some parking. Here we have gated off emergency access road with hardtop, half-court, age-appropriate play. We're going from 4 or 5 to 5, 6. That looks a little bit different, a little older age group. And then we have a walking path that circles around a large play field. And then takes you back out the loop road. So now you can go forward. Thank you. So this is, again, main entry. This is the back entry that I spoke about with the buses. So most of you know the school, right? So a lot of the admin and conference stays the same. New kitchen, enlarged servery. This is the existing gym that now will have a stage, cafeteria. We take over the existing caf for a very large subdividable band, orchestra, chorus. We met with the users multiple times, both 5th and 6th grade music, and spoke to them about what that room looks like when it's laid out for band, for orchestra, for chorus. We showed layouts, and then we also showed the ability to divide it and be able to use it as 2 general music classrooms when it's not the large, band, chorus, orchestra units. So this is the existing music room that would just get renovated, and the custodial that I spoke about, that was the stage. You can see the classrooms, media center remains intact, but some renovations around there. These are new renovated classrooms, a new nurses suite, we're taking over one of the classrooms. And then here are the new, this line is the new addition. And we have new classrooms to the north, these are the modulars, and then you have the 6,000 square foot gym, which is basically a regulation basketball court, and then a multi-purpose gym, and those have direct access out to the fields that you saw in the site plan. And there's some ancillary spaces, offices, the OTPT that could use these spaces if needed, with, of course, some services, restrooms and janitor. If you want to go up, we'll take you to the second floor. Thank you. Renovation again, and then second floor of classrooms, some additional service, mechanical, toilet rooms, and then the second floor of the modulars. So fairly straightforward. This is just a large volume. I don't know if we have a 3D here, but we could certainly get that to you if you were interested in what the massing looked like. I do want to talk about, in the renovation, we have sort of 4 levels of reno. We have a heavy level that is basically, would you go back for a second,
I knew you were
Carol?
gonna ask, I was ahead of you.
Look at that. It's essentially this. I mean, we're basically taking what is the gym and caf and current kitchen and changing it substantially. So heavy reno there, heavy reno here, where we're connecting over. These sets of classrooms have pods, these little breakout spaces, and we're getting rid of those and connecting over with the 2 corridors. Heavy reno is gut reno, basically take down the structure and rebuild it, new everything because we're reconfiguring. The next level is medium, and that's most of the classrooms, and, the corridors. The corridors are getting all new ceilings, new paint,
Floor.
I have my cheat sheet over there.
Potential
I think we're
flooring.
doing an option for floors. We're
Yes,
pricing
we're
that
pricing
as
up
line
floors,
item, alternate. We're going to have a long list of, it's gonna look like a menu, but what it would cost to change out the floors, so that if we're over what we think, from what was previously budgeted, we can make the tough decisions about what's in and what's not. And then we have the light, which is the classrooms, and we're getting new ceilings, some possibility for laptop carts and changing a little bit of the casework, an alternate for a new teaching wall, cleaning up some of the teaching wall in there. Is there an alternate for flooring in those rooms as well, Dan? Mm-hmm. Yep, so carrying the price to do all the floors. Because what we're proposing for flooring, it looks different from a maintenance standpoint than what's there. So the idea is that if we can afford it, might make sense to do everything so that from a annual maintenance and even a day-to-day, but the biggest thing is the waxing of the VCT. What we're proposing is linoleum, which doesn't need that. So to have a mix would be most difficult for the maintenance guys because they'll have 2 different maintenance schedules that they'll have to, like over the summer, they'll have to strip the VCT like they do now. With the linoleum, they wouldn't. So that's a long-term maintenance decision and a cost that may be a bit more upfront, but from a long-term standpoint could be cheaper on the life cycle. And then the very light is like this, on the corridors I want to mention, we're changing out all the handrails and the stairs as well. Those are going to stainless steel from the painted steel. So those will be, again, kind of maintenance free, just wipe them down rather than having to repaint them or not repaint them, which often is what happens. And then the very light is like toilet rooms and that's basically like coat of paint. Are they even getting ceilings? No, it's pretty.
Depends if it has ceiling pads or not.
Yeah. So that's the level of reno. So I just wanted to point out we bucketed kind of the 4 different heavy, medium, light, extra light. If you have specific questions about if it's in there or not, we could answer those, but I didn't want to go too deep. And then last but not least, we talked about, with the group, exterior materials. If you would go forward 2 slides, please, Carol. So we have the second floor, and then I think we have the exterior. Yep. So this is a piece of the exterior of the existing building. So we have a pitched roof that's got asphalt shingles. There's 3 types of brick, 3 colors of brick, with plenty of windows and a few other different materials. What we did was proposed a slimmed down version to match the existing. We wanted to blend in, you know, look different enough that you say, oh, that might be a new piece of the building, but not so different that it's like, oh, that's, you know, night and day different. So what we propose are matching the 3 bricks. The field brick is the field that's there, which is the reddish color brick, and that would be the majority of the facade. This is that classroom wing on the north that I showed you, like the front. So if you're in that top parking lot, the visitor and staff, you'd be looking at this. We're matching the pitched roofs. It's sort of a false roof, if you want to call it that. We're going to hide mechanical behind it. So the field would be the red, the buff, which is the lighter, it's almost an orangish, yellowish orange, would be the 2 pieces that pop out. And then the darkest brick would just be the base below the field at the front. We're going to match the cream colored windows that exist. We're going to have cast stone sills and a band between these 2 materials right here, similar to what exists in the current building, asphalt shingles, and then the fascia at the roof is all the dark bronze, so we would just match that. So this is sort of there's green, like tealish windows, there's some other additional materials that we didn't bring into this palette just to kind of keep it simple. At the back of the gym, it's sort of more of a square mass, and we would use mostly the red field brick, and then some curtain wall and some transom to get light into the gym from the north so that they don't have the glare while they're playing basketball. So this is really a slimmed down version of what's been presented to the bigger group, but wanted to give you guys a flavor for what the building would look like.
So before we ask questions, could you just share with us who the bigger group is? Who has been involved in this?
Yep, so it's our team, it's Vertex's team, it's Carol, it's Susan, it's Tim, it's both Matts. Matt from, it can get confusing, Matt L. from the middle school, and Matt Cotter from Hopkins. And am I missing anyone? I feel like that's the... And then, of course, I mentioned meeting with music. We've met with tons of staff from both Hopkins and the middle school, the 6th grade staff, both general teachers, special ed teachers, as well as all of the related arts group. They're not involved in the weekly meetings, but they've been involved in focus group meetings and have shared information, like Jeff said. We're in the information gathering, so we've met frequently with them.
Thank you.
So is that everyone? Did I miss anyone from that group?
No, I think you're right, and I would just love to, so when you're looking at those 2 purple rooms up there, I mean, this is a good example of the kind of work that we've been doing. So we looked at, with Abby Hanscom, the fact that there's 1 intensive special needs classroom in purple in that upper left-hand corner. And then we went and we sort of mapped out special education intensive enrollment based on who's at Marathon today kind of thing. And we thought, oh, looking at that one, we might need to make that intensive as well. And the beauty is that OT and PT are right across the hall, as well as that physical education space. So it's been very thoughtful, I think, in inviting all those focus group people in. And that's when we get down to those places where we're really tweaking a moderate classroom, making it an intensive, for example. So there's been a lot of work, I think, from very invested people in the focus groups.
And it's worth noting, the special ed, the 2 learning centers are directly above this. It's intentional in that we can make them the larger spaces that they need to be. Those need to be a little bit larger to accommodate some of the additional equipment and things that might be needed. Or in the case of the learning centers, the ability to break up the room to have multiple groups learning at the same time. So those rooms are closer to 950 square feet. A lot of the existing are 850, and these are highlighted in red because they're smaller than the 850 average. So those are like around 800 or change, and then these are smaller because of the modulars and what size they are. We're not planning on changing those. So just worth noting that those rooms are a little bit larger. Yes?
When you do the extensive renovation of what is kitchen now, or cafeteria, you'll do that like during a summer, I assume?
It's, Dan, you wanna talk to that?
It's gonna take longer than a summer.
That's, yeah,
Yes,
so
that's a great question.
So,
how does all this work then?
well, conceptually, right now, we think that the best course would be to do the demolition in the summer. So as soon as the students leave in June, have the contractor go in and basically demolish everything that's in there, do all the heavy and loud and hard work and dusty stuff that's gonna happen during a demolition, get all that out of there, close off that whole area, and then allow them to continue working in that area through that first half of that next year, and have the kids over in the new gym / multipurpose room, and they can use that as a kind of a home base for CAF space. So food will have to be brought over here for some amount of time, for sure, for at least a half a year.
It's also worth noting that there'll be, the sequencing of the projects will be interesting, and I think Susan gave an update to the focus group that we had as far as, this has 4 and 5, 6 wouldn't come over. This finishes proposed before the Elmwood. So this would actually have more space until the shifts all happen, in theory, because it's the amount of students that are in there now. What did I say, 640-ish in there now. So in theory, that multi-purpose space could be, borrowed for half of a year to accommodate a temporary cafeteria. And I don't know if they'll do heating or bag or, there's options I think that Susan and her team are looking into as far as how we will feed those students, but
Yeah, it's just too much work to do in a 2-month
Right.
span.
yeah.
So it's like, I knew it couldn't get
Yeah.
done.
Yep. Keen eye,
Well,
good
there's
question, yeah.
No dream that can be done in 2 months.
Right.
Any other questions?
This is great. I love seeing this. I'm excited. Lots of questions, but I'll limit them.
Sure.
With the plan for 5-6, do we need science classrooms? Dr. Kavanaugh?
I'll send Vanna right
Yes.
back
Yep.
up there.
On?
Yep. We're showing these as science. They're sort of a hybrid in my understanding with the focus groups. 6th grade is more intense into the science than the 5th grade, which is taught in the general classroom. So for the 6th grade at the 2nd floor, we're showing a hybrid with lots of casework and storage around and flexible furnishing within. And it seemed like the services that they use, Bunsen burners, microscopes, that sort of thing, could be accommodated within that type of space. So
Sinks? Will they have sinks? Or do-
sinks,
Mm-hmm.
yes.
Yeah, okay.
Yep.
Okay.
Yeah.
Courtyard.
And
Oh, and then, thank you, Dan. There's this exterior space, because these have exterior windows and we want natural light in the learning spaces, that we're sort of coining this as a science courtyard, and the ability to use weather and be outdoors and to do experiments within that outdoor space that could be convenient to those science labs. So we're diving deeper into how that looks and what that will be.
Okay. And the music space, I know you've spoken to the experts here, but I just, for my own curiosity, are we planning it to be sound insulated enough so that chorus can be having their class side by side with band and side by side with
They-
strings? Like you talked about dividing it.
Yep, nope, the chorus, band, and orchestra, when they meet as a large group, it's open. They need that whole space. It's like 3,000 square feet, 3,400, I think, square feet with some practice rooms. So they, as a 5th grade band, as an example, would need that entire space. When it's not band and they just have general music class, they can use the existing music room, or this can be divided for general music. So not band, chorus, orchestra divided, but the smaller general classrooms or just smaller ensemble use.
So the divider is soundproof.
It'll
The
be,
design, yes,
Because I think for well, obviously things will evolve, and I'm sure this curricularly, that word, I don't know, will evolve over time, but in fifth grade currently, I think kids go off to band and chorus in the same unit of time.
Correct.
So it's different from the middle school where band meets, or they can be sort of not at the same time. So it just seems like there's a high likelihood that there'll be multiple entities
there's
trying to get there at
6
once.
over the course of the 6-day schedule, 6 periods that there's a band for 5th grade period, there's a band for 6th grade period, there's an orchestra for 5, orchestra for 6, and a chorus for 5, chorus for 6. Does that make sense over the course of the schedule?
Yeah.
Is how we've planned it, and then when it's not those 6 periods, throughout the whole week, or 6 days, it's general music. Does that make sense? So,
But I don't know if that, I mean, I assume that it makes sense.
The answer to Amanda's question is it's a heavier duty movable partition. So similar to Marathon, which has the music room adjacent to the cafeteria, 2 loud spaces together. And it's an automated where it's actually a key that operates it. So it's a heavier duty one, not just the kind of more flimsy sliding partitions you might have seen in older schools. So it is a soundproof, as soundproof as a movable wall can be.
and it's worth noting, this is a permanent wall, and it's only this that is the so permanent, and when I say permanent, it'll be insulated in a way that prevents sound transmission between, say, the caf and the music room. But then this is the operable. So, and to Jeff's point, the instructor can turn the key, it will open up, and they can rearrange the chairs for, whatever the next scheduled period is.
And just one additional question.
Sure.
I'll stop, but I could talk all day.
No, it's fine.
So the cafeteria reno, you talked about sort of gutting the gym. I know with the new Elmwood, there's been a lot of thought put into sound control within the cafeteria. When we gut the gym, will there be sound abatement, like design features put into that cafeteria?
Did you read that email today?
We just got it today from our acoustical engineer. Yes, so they're looking at that and making suggestions for ceiling clouds and the ability, whether it's tectum on the wall, we want the ability to absorb sound. That is a tall, very tall, 37 feet, I
It's
think.
a super tall
That
gym.
gym is
Echo
quite
chamber.
tall. So there will definitely be acoustical modifications to be made in there. We're even suggesting the linoleum for the floor in there, instead of the wood, and that will help as well. It's a softer material that doesn't bounce as much sound. So already looking into how to make that space appropriate for the number of students that will be eating in there at any given time.
Appreciate that with those high ceilings.
No. It's definitely.
He's telling us he wants, over the stage area would be ACT in the stage area, which is unusual. Usually that's empty, but he's thinking that we need to do an ACT ceiling sloped inside the stage. A zone of about 6 to 8 feet of wood reflectors right outside to angle down towards the stage to bounce sound back.
Yeah.
And the back reflectors again, but not reflecting their absorption. So the rest of it, and then he likes also an absorption above to try to dampen the sound that gets trapped up above it. So that space is very tall and sound
Do you do
bouncing.
many conversions of gym to caf? Is this something that happens much? It does seem like a tough challenge for the acoustics.
I can't say I've had one.
I know it's been done. I can't. I'm trying to
Yeah,
think back,
I don't have
Well, I had a
a
picture of
project
one
off the
in
top of my
the-
head.
Yeah, there's.
Yeah, our acoustical engineer certainly has.
And
So.
James, who's working on the project with us, he's done one too,
did
because he
one.
had a
Is that
picture of one.
Meadowbrook?
So he did one. So he
Yeah.
had sent a picture of how they handled the ceiling in there as a gym ceiling and how high it was and what they did as an example, so.
Thank you, I appreciate it.
And the new gym, for what it's worth, will have acoustic deck, which basically serves as absorption as well as acoustical CMU. So it has the durability of a CMU, but has acoustical properties, so that should be a nice space as well.
So that's a lot.
Yes,
To try to
sorry.
absorb, no, that's great. It's great to have the detail. I was thinking as you were going through all of this, this is a different kind of project for us. Typically, when we have had a building project of this size, it's had a building committee that has been cross-sectional with different boards in town as well as some members at large. So I guess as I'm listening to very exciting features, I do want to make sure that we're able to bring the town on board in a planned way, the way that we've been trying to make a campaign with the elementary school building committee for the Elmwood School. This, my recollection timeline-wise, is moving towards a town meeting in May vote. Is that accurate?
That's correct.
So I do think kind of looking at the level of detail that we're getting into now, we may want to look at after special town meeting, not before. But just because I know that and we're going into budget, which is also a very busy time, opportunities to bring the public in to make the town feel like it's a project that they can get on board with, they understand. Also looking at, and I don't want to dive into it tonight because I think it's a bigger conversation, but considering looking at when we're talking about the science classrooms for the grade 6, looking at what the educational model is going to be, and this had come up earlier in conversations, but hadn't flushed out all the details. But looking at our 5th graders are on a very different type of model right now than our 6th graders. When we had talked with the faculty at Hopkins, I know that there were some teachers that had expressed questions on that. Certainly, I think parents will want to know about that well ahead of when we get to town meeting. The question one question I had, not for tonight again, but would be more detail also on the food. That just knowing how busy our lunches are right now and how many more school lunches we have going out under the free lunch program. That seems like that's going to be a particular challenge that I want to make sure that we have the support for all the things that you're doing with that. So
We have time to plan for that.
I assume, but it just,
Yes.
what we can do to help with that, if anything, or if we just need to step back and let you.
We're going to call bills.
That's probably a good answer.
Okay, that's going to be the headline.
When you convert the current gym into a cafeteria, does that have one of those basketball level wood floors in it?
It does.
It does.
Okay. And my assumption is you would not reuse that flooring in the new gym.
Correct.
No.
What do you do with the old flooring, which I would think is somewhat valuable?
Oh, would
Does
they
it just
recycle
go
them?
into the dumpster or?
I think they would recycle that.
Typically, our specs are written that they would recycle
Yeah,
wood.
they have to
That's-
recycle that.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I don't think it could be reused unless that was something that was planned, like, meaning not for this project, but.
It's beautiful
yeah,
wood.
it
I was
is,
just
yeah.
thinking of all the things that could be built with that beautiful, beautiful wood.
Yeah.
Right. Thank you guys so much for,
We do have one more piece of the design
Oh.
presentation.
awesome, sorry.
No,
We took up all the time with the
We
building.
took a pause because that was important to get your hands around the floor plan. And Grayson's gonna talk about the mechanical system, so we aren't gonna go too deep technical on that tonight. We did explore multiple options there, and Grayson has 2 summary slides to kind of talk to you about that. And if you want to go deeper, he's got a few backup slides as well. Grayson, you want to go ahead and take us off there?
Yeah, I appreciate it, Jeff. So yeah, first, I really appreciate your time today, letting me have some of that. And, it's myself, Ben Hobbs today, representing CMTA. So without further ado, over the past month, we've spent a lot of time and energy looking at different HVAC options and strategizing for your new project. And at the heart of that analysis is what's called life cycle cost analysis. And that's one thing I'm going to present today. It really drives which HVAC system option that we think is best. So all this is a cost assessment and comparison tool. It lets us look at the total cost to own and operate an HVAC system over its equipment life. So this is data-driven analysis. We try to operate based on facts and benchmark data. We try to take into account all costs. So your first cost to purchase the equipment, your cost to install the equipment, recurring charges like energy, maintenance, even inflation. So my main point is this is really a good tool for us to make an informed decision about which option will work best for your project. And what comes with that also is HVAC goals. So we had 3 in mind as we were looking at different HVAC options. So with the net zero resolution, one thing we were looking at hard is being 100% electrified. So what that means is not relying on fossil fuels such as natural gas. We wanted the system also to be expandable and versatile. So, having a system that you can't tie into later, there's no use in that. We want to make sure that what we provide you now can be used in the future as well if you decide to expand your existing building more, etc. We also wanted to make sure it was cost effective, efficient, and maintainable. So not all systems check all boxes, but I think our recommendation does. And what that is a 100% geothermal system. So we actually started with upwards of 6 to 8 different options, really got into the weeds on what might work best and narrowed that down to 3. So one is the 100% geothermal system, another is the boiler cooling tower system, and the last one is the reverse cycle chiller system. So the reason we recommend the geothermal option, simply put, it's the most efficient. Over time, it becomes the most cost effective. It'll save you the most money on your utility bills, and it's extremely maintainable. It's very simple to maintain. And the chart really tells the story there. So you can see the table as well in the bottom right. All systems cost around kind of the same price, and that was one factor we were looking at. We really thought the geothermal system would be way higher. But given the smaller square footage of the addition, it kind of worked out nice in that the geothermal system, being the most efficient, was also pretty cost effective. You can see I think it's only 5 or 8% more than the next most expensive option. So, when you look at the chart, you can also see that over time, the cost to maintain and operate that system is the lowest for geothermal. Another great benefit of this system is that it qualifies for certain incentives, such as the Inflation Reduction Act. This can lower the first cost, of the system in year 2. There are some hoops to jump through with that, but nevertheless, after considering all options, the geothermal one just kind of made sense based on all these factors. We also took into account what I call the future roadmap. So we need to make sure that decisions we make now are going to allow you to expand your system in the future. How do you transition to an electrified system in your existing building with the decisions and whatnot that we make now? So if you don't mind advancing to the next slide, I'll kind of show an example of how this would occur. So there's a commonality with all systems that we propose. So each system utilizes a 2-pipe water loop. And without getting into the weeds, all this really means and all this allows really is for versatility. So we have multiple plants, HVAC options that can serve this type of system. If in the future you want to expand your existing building or upgrade all of your existing equipment, there's options such as a well field. If you decide that a well field isn't cost effective in the future, there's other options like a reverse cycle chiller, boiler cooling tower, heat recovery chiller. There's tons of options. So that was one decision that we were thinking through, is we need to make sure this is versatile, and that is what geothermal will allow. There's also provisions that we can coordinate into the design now, and that's what we're carefully looking at. So things like upsizing pipes, leaving a capped line where the new addition will connect to the existing building. As shown in this little schematic, you can see that it's as simple as just tying into those pipes. We can upsize equipment. There's many things we can do, but again, without getting too into the weeds, the main takeaway is this is an extremely versatile system, and all the options that we've presented today should allow you some flexibility in the future. And yeah, that's really all I've got. I just wanted to cover that at a high level, and if there's any questions or anything, I'd be happy to answer those.
Thanks, Grayson. We'll turn it back to the committee.
Questions?
So the new addition would have air conditioning and heating? Or
Yes,
just-
that's correct.
And so we would have, so there'd be, doors in that entrance hallway, would there'd be,
There's a firewall between the existing and the new,
yeah,
so there's double doors on both floors.
okay.
I feel like I've learned more about HVAC.
Yeah, probably learned a lot in the past year about,
Yeah.
And then before that, during the early COVID, when we were talking about the systems then.
Do you know how many wells would be needed for an area this size?
Yeah, so, we're looking at about 28 wells, if I recall, for the new addition.
Other questions? Okay. I don't want to cut you short again.
no, so that's the end of the design presentation. There's just one more piece of business, which is just to establish the construction management pre-qual committee. So if you want to go to the last slide. So as part of the Mass State law, in order to move forward with construction management, the first thing was that you needed to make the vote on the overall process to move forward, which you've completed. And so we now have the package ready to go in the Inspection General's office. We will then get their approval, and then from there, we'll issue a request for proposal. By state statute, we have to establish a committee, which needs to, at a minimum, have 4 representation. The 4 minimum people would be 2 representatives from the owner, at least 1 from the designer, and 1 for the OPM. Here, we're proposing 6 would be the voting members for that committee. Ultimately, this committee would then also move forward after the construction manager is on board and add 2 members from the construction manager to be the pre-qualification committee for all the subcontractors. So the goal of this group is to review the proposals, check references, interview the candidates, and then make a recommendation about who the construction manager would be for the project.
Do you need to have an odd number, or is you okay? I mean, I'm hoping that decisions would be predominantly unanimous when you get to them, but.
Yeah, an odd number is always helpful, but, so we can go either way. We can trim one of the designers off, or we can go with 6.
I don't know how close your votes are when you, but yeah.
It puts the onus back on us. I mean, at the end of the day, I mean, the difference of a construction manager selection committee is you're picking them based on their qualifications, and you're interviewing them as well as the fee. And so really, there's usually a pretty good strata, and even when you get to the end and you have 2 that are very close, collaboratively, this group will talk about the pros and cons of those and come to a recommendation of ranking them with a 1st, 2nd, and 3rd, and then we would move forward with the first ranked form and negotiate their final fee and get them on board.
Works for me.
I'm okay with
I'm
that.
okay with it. If you're okay with it.
So I'll just need a motion to vote to move that forward as presented.
There is a motion in the agenda packet. If somebody feels so.
I can do that if you want. I would move to establish the Hopkins Construction Management Committee as proposed.
Thank you. Motion by Amanda. Is there a second on that?
Second.
Okay. I'll go with you, Holly, because I heard you first. Okay, all those in favor?
Aye.
Okay, great.
Great.
We're good.
Thank you very much. I'll see you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Sure, we'll be seeing you again shortly with
Sure you will.
ESBC. All right. So thank you very much.
Thank you.
Appreciate,
Meet all of you.
appreciate all the level of detail. And I know, I can see, looking at the many, many hours of work that have gone into putting this together to get it tonight, so appreciate that.
Thank you.
All right, that
I
brings
went with
us,
school, Jack.
Thank you.
that brings us down into intent to travel for the Hopkinton High School and the Hopkinton Middle School. And I believe there are a couple, more than a couple, actually.
There are quite a
Large number.
few, so bear with me while I,
And we need motions individually, so do you want to go one by one?
yes, I'll do that for sure. All right, so our first one is Business Professionals of America. It is the State Leadership Conference. It happens in Norwood. Mr. Scott is in charge of that one, and that's one night overnight, March 2nd to March 3rd.
Will you entertain a motion at this point? Or are we going to do them as a package?
We're going to do them one by one.
Okay.
Does anybody have any questions on that one? All right, then I definitely entertain a motion.
Okay, I would move that we approve the Business Professionals of American State Leadership Conference travel request.
Okay, so motion by Susan, is there a second on that?
Second.
Second by Holly, all those in favor?
Yeah.
Aye. Any opposed?
I will be there.
Fabulous. All
I'm
right.
a judge.
Are you really?
That's awesome.
That's awesome.
Yes.
That's great.
I've judged for about 3 or 4 years now.
Oh, that's awesome, I did not know that.
Yeah.
That's a great group.
It is outstanding.
I am confident in their abilities and with unbiased judging, they would represent.
I once, by accident, threw some score sheets away and they had to dig for them.
Boy.
It was my first time there.
All right, so that brings us to the second one.
The next one is also Business Professionals of America. It is the National Leadership Conference. It's in Chicago, and this is May 10th to May 14th. And again, this is Mr. Scott, and it's the high school one.
I would move that we approve the BPA trip to Chicago for the National Leadership Conference.
Okay, so a motion by Susan,
Second.
second by Holly. Any questions or discussion? All right, all those in favor?
Aye.
Okay, so that is unanimous as well. And then moves us into the high school robotics.
Okay, so our third one is high school robotics. They will be traveling to Bridgeport, Connecticut for the Southern New England Championship. It's February 25th to 27th. And I think that this one is, the chaperones are TBD on this one.
Okay. All right, any questions?
I just say I really appreciate the thought that goes into creating fundraising opportunities. You can see on all these applications that there's a lot of intent with ways to have a marathon runner or, other things that these groups are doing to make this possible, and I really appreciate that.
And very diverse funding.
Yes.
I agree, and I appreciate you highlighting that. Is there a motion on that one?
Are we on the Bridgeport one? I feel like I immediately
We are,
forgot.
Yeah. Yes, we
I'll
are.
let the science people do these ones.
I'll move to approve travel to Bridgeport, Connecticut on February 25th, 27th, 2024.
Motion by Holly, is there a second? Second by Susan, all those in favor?
Aye.
And that is also unanimous. And that moves us into the HMS Robotics Worlds to Texas.
Yes, and you remember last year we were very successful there.
Oh,
I
yeah.
think
was
they had some
thinking
good
about that
hardware.
as I was looking at them today.
So this is the middle school. These will be parent chaperones. They will be going to the VEX Worlds in Dallas, Texas. And they will be leaving on Wednesday, May 1st, and coming back on Friday, May 3rd. And that's 12 students.
Okay. Any questions? Okay, is there a motion on that one?
Yeah, I'll move to approve HMS Robotics travel to VEX World in Dallas, May 1st to 3rd, 2024.
Motion by Holly, is there a second?
Second.
Second by Amanda, all those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Okay, unanimous also, and so carries, and that brings us into the Hopkinton High School Robotics Worlds.
Okay, so Hopkinton High School, parent chaperones are to be determined. This is also VEX Worlds Championship in Dallas, Texas. And they will be leaving on April 25th, which is a Tuesday, and returning on April 25th, which is a Friday. 27th, which is a Friday.
Okay. Any questions on that? Okay.
Move to approve HHS Robotics travel to VEX World in Dallas, April 24th to 27th of next year.
Okay, motion by Holly, is there a second on that? Second by Susan.
I think it's maybe the 25th to the 27th.
It's, okay, so that's, Dr. Kavanaugh did say the 25th. The agenda says the 24th, so I
Want
want
me
to
to
make sure.
amend my
just-
motion?
I don't know, is it the 25th or the 24th?
I think
Yeah.
that the sheet that they filled out said Tuesday to Friday.
Yeah, it
It's
does,
the
yeah.
20, yeah, and this is the 25th to the 27th on this,
Okay.
yeah.
So I would imagine Tuesday is correct, which must make 24 correct.
Okay, because Tuesday is the 24th.
24, 25, 26, 27, yes.
Okay. All right.
Don't lose your.
So your motion was accurate.
Okay.
Okay, so a motion by Holly, I've forgotten, did somebody second that? Did you second that? Seconded by Susan, all those in favor? Aye. Also unanimous, and so carries. I, also, as we were discussing this, I was thinking of those 8th graders that came for the middle school robotics team.
Oh, yeah.
Be on this, probably on the,
That was
high
the
school.
coolest, I think, when they brought us the stuff they
Oh, yeah.
It was awesome.
And that notebook, do you remember that notebook?
Yeah.
The engineering notebook, that was
just-
unbelievable.
Whole thing blew me away.
Yeah.
Yeah, I've made like lab notebooks for years, and none of mine looked even close, like illegible work I did, and I feel bad about myself because of it.
Never feel bad about yourself.
Thank you, I appreciate that.
All
You
right.
should have seen their notebook though.
Oh,
So that moves us into the hockey tournament, which is an overnight travel.
Yes, so again, Hopkinton High School, boys varsity soccer. The coach is Scott Hayes, and he will be taking the team to Martha's Vineyard for the Farley Dickinson Hockey Tournament. I think that they do this one annually. They will be leaving on Saturday, February 17th, and returning on Sunday, February 18th, 2024.
I feel like we had the coach in to discuss this at one point.
We did,
did.
yes.
Yes, we definitely did.
Okay. Is there a motion to approve the hockey?
Yeah, I'll move to approve the boys varsity hockey travel to Martha's Vineyard, February 17th to 18th, 2024.
Motion by Holly, is there a second on that?
I'll second
By
that.
Susan, all those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay, so the boys varsity hockey trip is also approved. That brings us down into policies for school committee review. We can start with the policy IMG, animals in school, and policy IMGA, service animals.
Okay, so currently we have policy IMG, and it covers animals in school, as well as service animals. And what the MASC, so what you're seeing tonight are policies that the MASC has made recommendations to us on. And the first one is to take the whole of IMG and turn it into 2 policies, so that animals in school would be 1 policy, and then service animals would be a second policy, just because really the nature of those 2 things are very different. So when you look at your packet, what you're seeing is the original policy in its entirety. And so there's the recommendation to take out all of the animals prohibited from school.
Could you remind me why we struck that?
We did not think it was relevant anymore, thinking about, you know, people who would be bringing in wild animals or stray animals or poisonous animals or bats. We just felt like it had lost its relevance.
Was that happening before?
Well,
Bring their bats in?
Well, I
we weren't sure.
when I was looking at it again, I was like, well, what if
Somebody brought in a poisonous snake or something?
the science teacher wanted to bring in, let us say, a bat in a cage?
Right.
Would there
I think what we decided was the principal. of the
Principal would make
school,
that
which is the
decision,
first
okay.
statement. It's, rather than put every possible
right?
prohibited and allowed condition.
Right, the principal
Allow
could then-
the administrator in the building to be responsible for that choice.
So if they bring the cobra in, the principal will get to say yes or no.
I mean, it says no animal shall be brought to school without prior permission of the building principal, so.
That's how.
All right, and then the second policy that would be constructed from this, which would be IMGA, that is pretty much the policy as you see it now, with just a couple of, I think, sort of wordsmithing changes in there, and that's what you see in the red font. Otherwise, it's the exact policy you have now, sort of turned into 2.
I am curious, Jack, if you have ever heard of anyone being concerned about animals in school.
No, I think the only common animal I see in the high school is Lombardi.
Yeah.
It's a service dog, I believe.
Yeah.
So that's the only
Great name
sort
for a
of
dog.
interaction I have
Yeah.
with that, and I don't think anyone's ever approached
Been
me
concerned.
or any administrators about that.
How did a dog in Massachusetts get the name of Lombardi?
feel like this policy was, it doesn't say the year that this came into effect, but I feel like this was mid, like 2016, 2017.
It might be.
Because it prohibited then things like hamsters and things like that that have been in the schools as class
Yes.
pets.
Yes.
Okay. Because they're fur bearing.
Yes.
That's what it says, fur
They were
bearing.
my favorite list, like, bring a skunk.
Definitely, you should never bring a ferret.
2017 is the last
Okay,
time. we-
I had a recollection of it vaguely as we were going through it. So, did we get any feedback on this?
We did not.
Okay.
I think we should give it another
Yes,
go.
I agree with
though.
that. I agree with that. I don't think we should make the, is there anybody in particular that we think that we would like to solicit feedback from? Service animals might be something that CPAC would be interested in.
Yeah.
And the principals, since they
And the
are the ones who are
principals,
called
yeah.
out as being in charge.
They are.
you know.
Especially if for some reason one of the prohibited animals is, that they feel comfortable making that decision.
Yeah.
All right. So we will bring that back.
Bring your pet to school day.
Long live fur-bearing animals. Okay, so then the second policy that we have before us is, or well, third, if you count the first one as two. BEDH, which is public comment at school committee meetings.
Yes. This is a super minor change. Again, it came from MASC. We reviewed this policy not long ago, and we reviewed it as a result of litigation that took place right here in Massachusetts. And so when we reviewed it last, they wanted us to note that we didn't have the right to terminate someone's speech. And the only conditions under which we had the right to terminate someone's speech was when it constitutes a true threat that's likely to provoke a violent reaction and cause a breach of the peace or incitement to imminent lawless conduct, or it contained obscenities. And so now what the MSC is warning us against is we should remove the part about obscenities.
And that came as a result of a Supreme Court case, is that
I think
correct?
that is true, yes. Yeah.
So people can swear at us now.
Drop some mighty words at us.
Yes.
So glad we had it.
I'll bring earmuffs for you.
All
I think
right.
every time we edit the public comment at school committee meetings policy, it is because there has been legal precedent that has been
Yeah.
stated, so
Right. and that's-
unfortunately,
Unfortunately, exactly.
yeah.
Well, I think we get it kind of from both sides. We get people who are mad that we don't terminate things that they wish that would not be
Allowed, yeah.
allowed, and we get
Well,
mad that we don't.
they're limited by time, correct?
They are limited by time, correct.
But not
You have to get them in early.
Do you
I don't-
time them?
Yes,
Yes,
Amanda
I
does.
do.
Of course you do.
I don't see a reason not to vote this one. It's a minor change and it's legally sort of required. We can wait if you like, because it is a first reading of this modification, but it is quite minor.
I agree that it's minor, and I'm on the fence on the whole thing, only because I think our public comment does generate interest from the community, and it is a minor change, but I think I would be inclined to wait. I don't know.
Fair enough.
But I am one person, so.
I think unfortunately, even though we had quite a discussion at the policy subcommittee meeting, because it's not that fun to say, yes, you are allowed to come swear at us, but that's legally protected. So even if people didn't agree with it, there's not a
Yes,
lot we
there's-
could do,
right.
unfortunately, which is why we're making the change.
I'm thinking, in looking at things like, we don't actually have people sign in regularly.
Oh, are they supposed to sign in when they speak? Is that something that's supposed to?
That is not something that we,
Well, imagine if there were a lot of people.
we have done it, so I do remember, and maybe that's when we revised it, is that the idea behind it was that we'd be able to follow up with people. So that if we had a bunch of public comments, it's not I liked in a way, when we did that we would ask people that if they wanted to sign in and leave a contact information, because we're not allowed to engage back and forth, even though they've come and they've made comments and asked questions. It feels a little unnatural not to be able to give something back to somebody who's speaking to us. And I think the idea, if I recall correctly, behind that was to allow then some reach back to them to say, to either provide information or to ask follow-up.
That's a good idea.
Yeah. But are you guys okay waiting one more time? I don't know that it will make a difference substantially in what happens with this policy, but.
Yeah, sure.
Okay. So that brings us into IHBG, which is homeschooling. You guys have been busy.
You know, 7:30 is a great time to do things. It percolates the brain.
There's a lot of vim and vigor at that hour.
Wallace has been to several meetings.
So the
Bearing,
homeschooling one that you are looking at is actually the MASC one. And so it's not the one that is our policy. But what this does for you is it does show you accurately the statement that we would want to be taking out of our policy. So the last line of our policy says, a student, with the approval of the school committee, may be awarded a high school diploma if he, she, or they have satisfied the Department of Elementary and Secondary Education's competency requirements and has met the district's educational standards for graduation. MASC has, pretty much just reminded us that that's not really feasible. The high school only awards diplomas to people who have completed their coursework. And that can mean that you were educated out of state for 3 years and then enrolled in Hopkinton High School, we transfer your credits in. Or you could have been homeschooled for your freshman year, we transfer those credits in. You take the MCAS as a sophomore and you stay with us for junior and senior year, you'll certainly get a diploma. But you can't be homeschooled for 4 years of high school because, number one, the state doesn't allow you to take MCAS, and number two, we don't grant diplomas to people who aren't educated sort of by our teachers taking our courses. So that just is, a clarification that needs to be made as well.
So I don't think I realized looking through this that this is not actually our policy. Is that what you
Right,
said?
it's very similar.
Okay.
But
So do we have that part that's struck out and read in our policy?
we do, yes. So what I just
That
read
makes
you
sense.
was our
Yep.
policy. I was
Oh.
reading from our policy.
Okay.
So it is the same language. And that's what needs to be changed. So certainly,
That makes complete sense, and it makes it consistent with practice.
that's correct, yes.
So we should bring back an edited version of our own policy.
I think we should,
Yeah.
yes.
Yep. And that gives us the consistency that anything that was on first reading is coming back.
And I would say, Jack, if any of these policies, because they do impact,
Yeah.
the schools, if you get any feedback from anybody, even anecdotally, that you want to share at the next reading, feel free to bring that back.
Yeah, I'll be sure.
And if you have thoughts yourself, always feel free to jump in.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Okay. So we will bring that back as well. That brings us then into the webmaster support provider stipend request.
Okay. I just wasn't sure if we had one more policy.
Oh,
but we
I'm
don't.
sorry.
No, we're okay.
I was gonna say, I thought I read over it.
Yep,
Maybe,
we're
okay.
good. All right, so the webmaster stipend. We used to have a $6,500 stipend, and then when the stipend committee got together to review everything, we said we should probably eliminate that. In the meantime, we had a webmaster who was working for us, and since that time, that position was eliminated, and the person who was doing that job for us became a paraprofessional in the high school library, and then she became our full-on librarian once she had earned that degree. So she currently works as our librarian, but we call her all the time and say, hi, can you add this letter? Can you change that date? Can you update the calendar? All of those things, and I feel like it's only fair that if we're asking her to do things that extend beyond her teaching, obligations that we put a stipend out there. Now, that doesn't 100% mean that she's getting that. We have to post it in accordance with all of our rules and regulations. But we do think we need to bring it back regardless of who gets the position. It's just really important to make sure that if someone who is in the HTA or paraprofessional or whoever gets the job is doing something outside the scope of the work for which they were hired, that there's a way for us to compensate them.
Is this based on a set number of hours, or is it just what typically we would be asking the person in the library to do, and that's how you determine the value? Or is it just a thanks for doing all this work?
We
for us?
set the fee at what it used to be.
Yeah.
So we think that that's probably fair remuneration for the number of hours
Yeah.
involved.
Okay.
And consistent with the way that, and I'm asking, is it consistent with the way that we redid our stipends for the contract, the last contract? There's a lot of work
I
on the
would say,
stipends.
this is a different position. I mean, I'm getting this background for the first time,
Yep.
so I think typically our stipends are very much an honorarium. I mean, it's not fee for time.
Coaches, though, and thinking of, like, there were-
Yes, and we've been working to provide equity there. This is a very specific, this is kind of a different position. I don't know how we would look at this, because the way so when we did the stipend review, we looked at all of the sort of the student-involved activities and kind of grouped them into which ones were sort of interscholastic or competitive, whether it's robotics or athletics, or, that was kind of one thing. And then we looked at more sort of co-curricular things that teachers and staff do to serve the curriculum and learning and sort of the administration around that they assist with, whether it's being the mentor for an incoming new teacher or whatever. So we sort of bucketed them. As I'm hearing this, in my mind, I can't quite come up with what bucket this would go into. It's a little bit different. Yeah. So I don't know.
Because it doesn't really fit with something like a team leader or something like the subject matter.
It kind of
leader or
is in there, maybe. I don't know. Do you think?
It may be more SML-ish than
Yes.
almost
Yep.
any other category.
I think that, yeah. I don't remember the range of those, because those were not all the same exact amount either.
Right.
There's a range, right? And I don't remember what that was.
Might be helpful too is once a webmaster is set up is to try and see if that person would be willing to just keep a log of hours. So you had some concept of the amount of time it takes to do that job, because it could be 10 minutes here, 10 minutes here, but then there's a huge break in the whole thing, and that person becomes much more vital.
Is it work that would be done outside of the regular school hours?
That's the thinking. It would have to be done. To
Yep.
qualify as a
Yep.
stipend, it has to be done beyond the regular school day.
I'm okay with this. I know you've given it, I'm sure, a lot of thought to figure out what where that would fit. Where is the money? What bucket is that coming out of? Is that replacing something else in the stipends, or
Let us ask our
something magical?
Well, the hope would be that we would just be able to pay for it through the hiring process, meaning attrition gains,
Okay.
where somebody leaves and we're able to hire at a lower grade. So we would be able to absorb it in that.
Is this to start for this year, for this school year, or is this?
Yes, it would be
Okay.
immediate.
Okay. Other questions?
And do we pay this in one lump sum, or do we pay it
Good.
So most of our stipends have a choice where you can choose to get one payment in December and one payment in June.
Yeah.
But that's it.
Yeah.
You don't,
Can't have it up front and then,
and you don't get it in each paycheck.
No.
A stipend is typically a one-time payout.
Yes.
But we do offer for staff, with a lot of our stipends, to get those two potential pay times, rather than wait the entire year.
Yeah. I think it's important that our information be available to the community. I'm a huge proponent of having the official sources be a reliable reference so that the unofficial sources are less needed because those can be unreliable.
Such a nice way of putting it.
So I think this is important. I know that there's definitely a precedent where we have had stipended positions. We tried to have this as a full-time person, but then we obviously had budget cuts. So I'm in favor of this. I would be curious, as Susan said, to sort of get a sense of demand, maybe at the mid-year mark, just for our budget planning, to make sure that it's the right kind of stipend. So can we approve this for the year
for
and
the-
then,
FY '24.
yeah.
Yes, absolutely.
I agree with you. I think it's important to have the right information. I think it also increases our transparency.
Yeah.
As a district and ultimately as a committee.
Would you be looking at, if the person kind of keeps track of how much time was required? If they come back at the end of the year and they made a spreadsheet of it or whatever, would you be thinking that if we don't feel there's enough hours there, that we would then reduce the stipend for that position?
I guess I'd want to just make sure that we're able to maintain the website. And I think this is based on the past. It seems like the right amount for that, but it would be good to just know, like,
Yeah.
how did we feel? How did Dr. Kavanaugh feel? Were there requests we just couldn't get to because there was too much? Is this, and then we'd have to, as a committee, look at it. I mean, I think we'd have to discuss it and just see how did it go.
Right.
You know, it's hard to know what we would do with that until we see how the feedback is.
And who knows, there could be a tremendous disaster and the web just,
Please don't say that.
Can you knock on wood or something?
So we typically we typically vote the stipends for the next year in the spring? Do we vote the whole slate of them? I'm trying to remember. I guess, do they come forward to us? Like, how would we see this again for next year, just to kind of review?
I think you only vote changes.
Yeah.
Although if we, so this is the piece I think we want to be intentional on, is if we voted as for the FY '24 year, it would require a
It
vote
to come
to
back.
do it. as
Yes.
on-
Exactly.
Yeah, most of your stipends are within the bargaining
They are.
agreement, so you're really only voting them during negotiations.
That's right, thank you.
So it's not something that you're voting on annually.
And, oh no, it's the following year for would be when the contract is a new contract. yes.
Another year.
So if a stipend is going to live year to year, it's fine. But if, a building principal says, some kids came to me and they want to start X club, can we add that stipend? Then you vote to do that.
Yeah, thank you. It's a whole lot of chat. Would you like a motion?
I
of
would
some
love a
sort?
motion.
Thank you.
Where is it? I'm looking. So I would move to approve the webmaster stipend of $6,500 for the current FY '24 fiscal year. And yeah, I guess we stop there.
Up there?
Okay.
Okay, so there's a motion by Amanda. Is there a second on the motion?
I'll second.
Second by Holly. All those in favor?
Yeah.
Aye.
Any opposed?
And can I just like to thank
Yeah.
our current, just helping out webmaster unofficial
Yes.
for stepping up and doing that. It's beyond what she's currently doing, and
Yes.
really appreciate that, being such a team player.
And she has Georgette and 5 principals calling all the time.
Really appreciate
And-
that. So
right,
thank you
and-
for that.
There has been nothing noted that I can see on the website that has not been content appropriate and updated. All right, so that brings us into the 2024-2025 school year calendar. We did receive one email, which was a follow-up from another email that the last time we had discussed this, just regarding a concern for the length of the school year, or the end date for the school year. and kind of looking at the way that we arrive at that.
Yes, so I think the last time we talked about this, I think we were fine with most of the calendar. The question came up because this year, the December 25th holiday, Christmas, lands on a Wednesday. And traditionally, what happens in public schools when Christmas lands on a Wednesday is that you get out of school on Friday the 20th. So that means you have an 11-day break as opposed to a 10-day break. And I think someone had wondered if there were other school districts that were going to send their children to school on Monday the 23rd. Georgette did look into many of the local communities that already had their 24-25 calendar available, some don't. And we couldn't find anyone who was sending their kids to school on the 23rd. And as a longtime educator, and maybe Jack Ionelli can chime in here, I think what happens in public schools on the 20th, when you're just about to get out of school for the December holiday, it's the first time that you're going to get that great big 10 or 11-day break. And I think not just the kids, but even the adults are kind of giddy on that last Friday.
And if you had them come to school on the 23rd, we both know that
You'd be missing a lot.
there would be nothing accomplished.
I think a lot of people leave for vacation too, right? To start with that.
I do agree with you, Holly. I think people will probably leave on like Saturday or Sunday to go and travel and be with family. And then I think the other thing is we have the issue of our educators. So if they all have their own children who are at home and they are being asked to come to school, now they have to find childcare. And for some people who don't have like local sitters or local family, that can pose a problem for some of our educators.
So just in
Go
fair.
ahead, Jack, I know you want to say something over there.
I was just gonna highlight that most of the time, right before break, teachers will not be allowed to like give out homework. It's considered like a homework-free break, which almost like prohibits them from teaching any new material in class the day before a break because they don't get the benefit of the students practicing at home.
Yeah.
So they almost have to go over the same lesson when they come back. So I just
Couldn't possibly be their sugar plum fairies and stuff going on in their brain.
yeah. So I just would see the not really a benefit of coming back on the 23rd.
So I think that's great perspective for us to hear. In terms of, in full disclosure, it was me who had asked about the 23rd of December. And the reason I did so is just to kind of appreciate where the writer of the email who had sent us the earlier email, where their perspective is. I do think that the fact that this is a longer break than either our February or our April break probably encourages more travel for people, whether they're celebrating the holidays that week or not.
Yes.
It only comes around once every, 7 years?
Every 7 years.
I did appreciate your point, though, only because if we have, our last day of school is the 18th, right?
Yeah.
And if we have a snow day,
You can have
that's
one.
the 20th, right? Because Juneteenth is June
Juneteenth is the day
19th,
off.
so we have a holiday. They'd have to come, they'd have to come on the 20th. If it's 2 snow days, then they're all the way over to the next week.
Well,
And it's hot, and there's
It's-
certainly not a lot of focus, there's not any more focus at the end of June than there is on December 23rd, so it's difficult.
I don't feel like there's a great solution to that in
Yeah.
looking at this particular calendar. I appreciate both the concerns of having school on the 23rd versus not having school on the 23rd, as well as the concerns of being in school on June 23rd, 4th, 5th, and
Yeah.
6th. But realistically, I don't ever remember a year where we had no snow days. I also do have a sensitivity towards when we're looking at holidays, the December break is centered on Christmas, and which Christmas is the 25th. We're also looking at the 23rd and the 24th off. And I think in order to make that change, I think we need this to ultimately be examined by the calendar committee. I think if we're going to have the 24th as a day off, it makes sense to have the 23rd as well. But I think at some point, we are gonna need to look at the entire calendar and try to look at kind of not just this year's, but what we're doing and how we're handling other days. And that can be partly contractual, partly what day we start on, as well as other things. This is not that year. We had said when we approved the way that we were looking at the holidays, that we would let a couple of years cycle through so that we could get some feedback on that and have that appreciation. I don't know that beyond that 23rd, there's another day that, in the spirit of the calendar that we approved in 2021, right?
Right.
2021, I don't think there's a way around other days.
I appreciate the argument. I will
Yeah,
say,
yeah, I don't have-
disagree a little bit that if, that because we give the 24th, we absolutely have to give the 23rd. I mean,
Well,
I'm
only
certainly
in that
working
year,
on the
so, yeah,
23rd. That's like saying, oh, okay, we just give the whole of December. But I think, I appreciate the conundrum that this calendar presents. And the reality is, people are going to travel. I mean, I understand the reality of it. I don't love it because I just worry about June. I know we're in a climate volatile time, and whether it's snow or hurricanes or wind days or like things are happening and it's super hot. So I worry about June. I'm willing to go with this calendar the way it is, but I don't want us to forget that our schools aren't air conditioned. June is tough. Not for you. You'll have graduated.
Yes, exactly. I agree with that, and I guess my sensitivity also comes into as somebody who does celebrate Christmas. I do want to be sensitive to the fact that we're looking at a number of days off for a particular holiday that does not afford it in some of the other holidays. So I don't want to kind of have one particular set of religious holidays dominating and taking that. Does that make sense? Kind of, just to be sensitive of the diverse cultures and religions in our district.
Right, that's largely like based on national holidays, right? Like.
It is, and that's a piece that we can't change.
Right.
And it's also traditionally a break, so I am not inclined, based on the information that we have, particularly appreciating where our educators are coming from, that they have, if they have children in other districts. Although I will point out that that's not unique to other holidays that we have as well, that there might be
Yes, that's right.
challenges, but I don't want to talk for the rest of the night on that, so I would definitely entertain a motion by anybody who feels moved to make a motion.
I would move to accept the calendar as proposed
Okay.
for 19, 23,
I think
24?
you mean 20, it's 20, 24, 25.
24, 25.
We're very close, only off by about 100.
Okay, so there's a motion by Susan. Is there a second?
Yeah,
Okay, a second by Holly. All those in favor?
yes.
Yes, aye.
Okay, and that is approved. Also, special thanks to Georgette for the research she did in getting that information, because that was, I think, important. Okay, so that moves us into the school committee goals. I want to highlight, I would like to kind of look at these and make some progress, but I don't feel comfortable voting them in the absence of one school committee member,
Yeah.
would be my upfront thought. All right. For those following along at home, it is the last page of our packet. And, I think we want to go, do people have thoughts from the last discussion that we had, which feels like 6 years ago, but it really was, I think, early September? Yeah.
I noticed that you wrote, do we want an outcome goal? When you wrote that, is it based on like, you want an outcome goal that's like a SMART goal, like we will achieve X by X date, or is it more of a general, I hope we can meet this number of meetings or listening sessions, or did you have like a specific outcome in mind? That was to you.
But the-
You're-
from
Okay,
the
it wasn't
last
my
time-
comment. It wasn't my comment.
I think that might have been my comment.
Oh,
I put those in.
it said your name, that's the only reason I was asking.
Sorry. I think that was Amanda's
I
comment.
think that might have been my comment.
Okay. I was like, oh no.
Are they, as opposed to dumb goals?
Right, I think, I'm trying to remember our discussion. There were two thoughts I had when we first discussed these. One was, do we want a measurable goal? Like making sure, like, I think we hold at least 3 office hours, or maybe that was in the edit. Let's just see. Yeah. So some of them are measurable. I think most, maybe they all are at this point. But just kind of checking that. The other question I had, which I don't have an answer for, I have been thinking about it, I don't have a good answer, was in terms of student growth, and none of our goals talk about outcomes for students. And I think that maybe is where Nancy wrote that down. We talk about diversity, equity, inclusion, stewardship of assets, community connectedness, but I think I had used the word in our workshop about student achievement, and I think Dr. Kavanaugh had suggested growth or outcomes as more of the terminology that we use. I think it's the same sort of sentiment, and the reality is that we look at metrics that get at those specific points on a regular basis. We look at things like MCAS, we look at Dr. Kavanaugh, especially in reporting back on goals, will share STAR reading and STAR math data, and we will probably get our report on the holistic assessment that you guys are going to be doing. So we'll have a bunch of data coming in, even if we don't put it in our goals. That is an important job that we do. It's the oversight job, and we do it, but we just didn't reflect it in here anywhere. So that's kind of the piece that was missing, and I wouldn't want to add, a lot more reporting, but I do think it is important for us as members to, digest that information and make sure that we're getting the information out of the data so that we feel comfortable, and we do it. I just didn't know if it needed to be codified a little bit more in our goals, if that makes any sense.
How would you state that?
Well, that's just the ticket. So when we originally came up with these goals, I had taken a stab at sort of listing a bunch of the reports that we get. I had some old notes, and just saying, can we agree on this year we're going to make sure we focus on like 3 or 4 of these, like as sort of areas of importance for the year. It didn't really, when we discussed it back at the time, it didn't really work the way we all thought it would work. We didn't want to add any unnecessary burden to the administration because we're already getting a lot of this information anyway. So I guess I'm comfortable with where we are with our goals as written. I don't know, unless other people have thoughts. We're not going to vote them tonight. If you really like the idea, then I can put more thought into kind of coming up with a way to articulate it based on what we review. But if we think that we've already got that covered because it's a responsibility and we do it, and we don't have to write it down, that's fine too.
Okay.
But that's what that comment was there for, since you asked.
Thank you.
I have a question about office hours. How do those work? Are we each assigned a 3-hour block, or?
So we've done it multiple ways in the past. We've done it where there have been just a couple of, like 2 members of the school committee that physically go to a location. More recently, we've had a quorum of the school committee where we have had people, and we've done them remotely primarily, allowed them the opportunity to come in and talk about, whatever they want questions about. A little bit different I was thinking in terms of listening tour, we do more listening sessions than tours, I think. But whereas the listening sessions tend to be topic focused. I mean, office hours can be as well. So I don't know how we want to differentiate between office hours and listening sessions. Kind of what is the...
Like, would a listening session have a specific theme or topic, whereas office hours might be just open to?
So we've done office hours both ways.
Oh, so you have had like a dedicated time for a specific discussion?
So I'm trying to think specifically, and I'm drawing a blank.
When we did office hours, most of the office hours I did were not on a topic.
Yeah.
It was like we sat at Starbucks or whatever, and
We haven't done that kind of office hours for a while.
yeah, I did
yeah.
that with Mina. I remember sitting.
I
with a
could
few
be
of
really
those.
good at Starbucks. I
We
know
didn't,
that.
but I do like, I do like that opportunity
Little
for
cart.
people to stop by.
Ask your school
and see
board
us in
member.
person.
Yeah.
The difference that we did with that was that it was always two people, it was never a quorum.
Right.
And because there can be more conversation because it's not then an official meeting. That it, whereas if it's an official meeting, the ability to have somebody bring an unanticipated topic, our ability to respond back, because it's not posted on the agenda, is limited. Whereas if it's two of us, we can talk about what we know.
And it might be, if we could do something where somebody feels comfortable just dropping by
Yep.
and, I've been thinking about this, that might allow us to come back with more things that they aren't motivated enough to write a letter or email or anything like that. Just
Yeah.
That was
just-
the idea.
It was, and we have to a bunch of different locations. We've done it in the library before, we did it at the Spoon,
Yep.
different places where people might be, we did it outside of a concert on more than one more than one time. Those tend not to get people that are stopping by to talk to us though, because they're in a rush to get seated for their kids'
Right.
concert. Although it was sort of fun to be able to see people and to see the excitement around the kids, but.
We could try, I mean, just kind of thinking out loud, the community seems to appreciate the virtual because it's convenient and so many families are busy. Like, we could designate, a time every month that two of us will be on a Zoom that's just open. Yes.
not at 7:30 in the morning.
No, ma'am.
Just want to make that clear.
Well, I think, I like that idea. I think we would want to, if we're going to stick with one particular time, try to make it seems like when we did the listening tour, the Sunday evenings were a
Sunday
good time
evenings,
for
yeah.
people. Till we can put that on our to-do list when we bring back the goals for a vote, is office hours potentially monthly on a particular Sunday, like a second or third or whatever Sunday of the month at.
Yeah.
First and fourth is probably the easier, first and last is probably easier to remember, but. And then have two of us, just we can rotate around so that different
Right.
people get the opportunity to field
Just sit
questions.
down and talk.
Yeah,
And if we do it for like an hour,
yep,
then,
yep, and then, right, it's, if we get people, great. If we don't, they know we're there and they can come back another time.
Yeah.
I do like the opportunity to give people, though, periodically having that in-person spontaneous piece to offer people. I noticed the police department did it this week at Old Town.
oh, did
I
they?
think it was get coffee with a cop. I think it was yesterday. I was not able to go, but. All right, so let's think a little bit more about that. Okay. Is there anything that people feel like should be removed that does not feel like a good goal to have? I like the intentionality of these. I think coming back and looking at them each year kind of reminds me of things that we want to try to do to get up and going, to make some more connections with other school committees in the region, attending different school events.
When we talk about a communications plan in here, is that to expand how we communicate within the communities, like as opposed to, just listening sessions, which I would have just a piece of a communication plan, but is there any other ideas or thoughts about, a more diverse communication plan?
That came out of the moderated session that we did when we originally did our first round of
Yes,
goals.
with Tony
And,
Benn, yeah.
we talked a little bit about things like, how do we do press releases and how do we manage social media? It's kind of along the lines of I think we were counseled that some districts do create a communications plan of who's responsible and what channels we use and how.
Yeah.
We have talked about this, because we talked about social media.
We did, and we didn't, when we talked about social media, we did not want to take a more, I guess, a more formal and to allow members to use it in a way that, while both respecting the bounds of open meeting law, but not to say you can, you must, you can't post on your personal school committee page or your personal page, but to be mindful of group posts on some of the groups and things like that, not having a quorum of school committee members discussing things.
But I think we revisited that, and I'm looking at the presentation that we looked at. We revisited in March of 2023, and we talked about like all the different channels and how we use them.
We did, so I don't know if people want to do that again this year, to discuss that piece of the, I feel okay with that from where we left off.
Yeah.
Okay, I'm gonna take that out then for now. All right.
And how do we feel about making connections with the other school committees in the region? Or with the now not as new legislators and their representatives?
I think it's important to have connections with the legislators. The other school committees in the region, I think, was super helpful when we were going through COVID.
Yeah.
It was a little more challenging to pull together last year. I think the interest level of other committees is maybe less now than what it was
Yeah.
when we were going through some of the more similar controversial things. I don't have a strong feeling on it either way, on other school committees. I do think it's like, I think the ability to reach out to a school committee member in another district is a great thing to have a one-on-one conversation.
Probably the kind of thing that would build some of those would be attendance at, I would assume that there are workshops and other things offered by,
MASC.
you know,
I have had people cold call me from other school committees, and I would be comfortable reaching out to other people as well in that same kind of, I probably would email before I called, but I mean, I do think,
do we have a legislative liaison?
it typically is, like, formally, it would be me, but they do reach out to, I mean, and we have done meeting together with different legislators. I know you have met with legislators.
And the whole school committee used to go to Senator Spilka's mental health event when she had it, but she didn't have it.
She didn't do that this past January. I've not heard, because that was such a great event. And another, opportunity for both legislators and other school committee members, because they had a little dinner beforehand for all the area school committee members in her district.
And there's the tech legislative breakfast too, that I think they haven't done for a little bit.
Didn't we do that it wasn't tech, it was the MASS, MASC breakfast when we were talking about the special ed school private tuition increases.
Yes, that's right. Oh, yes. Yep.
All right, so that kind of,
So do you want to nix 3?
I would nix 3 and kind of work on it on an as-needed kind of basis.
I mean, it's the kind of thing that, like, we could have checked the calendars, for example, at a convention of our, because we had, like, sort of some peers who came together during COVID. We have such great support from Georgette, who's also well-connected, that we probably don't need it as much.
Right.
If you,
And-
I mean,
Right, and when it comes to things like, when we're looking at comparables for salaries and stuff like that, Holnick does a great job of pulling stuff together from comparable districts. So I would be okay taking that out. Anybody else have a different, because I'm open to. See, we are making progress here.
So what are you taking out?
It's already gone.
With
Number
other
3.
committee members from outside of
It's already gone, huh?
It's
Okay.
gone.
Okay.
And you took out 5.
And then
I did, but it magically
there's
renumbers
another one,
itself.
that one, we took out as
You
well.
got rid of that one.
Yeah, yeah.
Okay, and I would like to make a personal goal. So there are two things, one, that I would have goals on for our next meeting. One would be, and this is just me personally, but would be if we could try to vote on this so that we're actually actively working towards it and can have a mid-year check-in point.
Yeah, sure.
The other, which is slightly off topic, but is Christine Strickland is looking to do a photo of the 5 of us, which we have discussed.
And we've had, I didn't get a headshot taken that.
Yes, I think she'd like to get new headshots from
Yeah.
people that,
Okay.
although now I'm like 5 years older, so
I know.
I want a new headshot. But so,
So our
Again, we
goal
don't
should
have-
be to,
that's a conversation we can have, because it's scheduling we can have offline. I kept thinking we'd be able to do it, all 5 of us, but we haven't had a full committee, so, for a couple weeks.
but Adam had a new
Isn't it?
headshot done, didn't he?
He did, because she was able to do him. I had, I forget why I didn't have it that day, but I just didn't want to, I wasn't feeling it.
Can I suggest that we also look at, sorry, aside from the headshots, I'm jumping right off the page, I don't like photographs. Number 3, number 3, the, under stewardship of assets, the support high-level campus planning and ESBC 2, I think we need to add in there the Hopkins edition.
Yes.
And like our ongoing, a 5-year capital plan, potentially put in, whether it's transparency and communication or stewardship of assets, the fact that we continually review and update our 5-year capital plan. I'd like to see number 3 reworded and updated. The sentiment is right, but I don't think it's reflecting where we are in 2023.
I would agree with that.
It's 2 and 3, I guess. Passive,
All right, so let's-
pass a capital budget, blah, blah, blah.
Yep.
And maintain, and continue to maintain the 5-year capital plan as accurately as possible to reflect, new changes.
I'm going to put it in
Or something
parentheses
like that.
below so we come back to it. So we can wordsmith that nicely at a time that's
Not now.
not right now. Okay, and then adding to number 3 is, were you envisioning adding the Hopkins piece to number 3?
I think for this year in particular, we should put that.
I'm gonna put addition so I remember, unlike when Holly asked me today, so I remember what it was that I was writing.
That's for enrollment growth. Number 3 is really about enrollment growth.
Okay. We can look at that and wordsmith that nicely, and then be ready for a vote on that at our next meeting.
Please.
Okay. Now, are we ready to move on from that for tonight? To get that. Okay, so that brings us back up to the agenda. I believe we are into future agenda items. All right, so we still have a couple things kind of in our little thought bubbles that we want to come back to, I know. That then brings us into items by consensus.
Okay. As superintendent, I recommend the school committee approve the items by consensus as outlined in your agenda.
Is there a motion for that?
I move to approve the items by consensus.
So a motion by Susan, is there a second?
Yeah, second.
Second by Holly, all those in favor?
Aye.
And that passes, and that then brings us into adjournment. Is there somebody who would like to make a motion relative to that?
I'd like to move to adjourn the meeting.
Okay, motion by Holly, is there a second?
Second.
Second by Amanda, all those in favor?
Yes.
Aye.
we are adjourned at 9:09, I'm gonna say, because I'm rounding up.
4 minutes off.
I know, we did catch up there nicely.
I've ever been in a meeting
9:08:54.
where we were almost on time.
I know, right? So that was well done, everybody. And our next meeting, for folks at home, is going to be on October 19th. We do have the joint meeting on October 10th, which is Tuesday with the Select Board and the Appropriations Committee. Our
And
next
that's-
regular meeting is the 19th, and then on November 2nd.
What time is the one on the 10th?
Georgette just sent something out. I feel like
Okay, I
it's
saw it in my mailbox.
6:30. We're on the agenda later.
We are on at 7, but I believe the select board has an executive session opening their open session at 6:30.
Okay.
So we just wanted to make sure we were there in a timely manner.
Okay.
So I said 6:30.
All right, thank you all for tuning in, and have a good night. And a nice long weekend for those who are
Ooh, and